We're taking a look in this after Christmas Sunday at challenging assumptions. Would you put up give me a second here. Would you put up the title slide, Tim, for the message? We're looking at challenging assumptions. And even the title, it challenges us. What are you assuming by the title? Are we going to hear about assumptions that are challenging? Or are we going to hear about some challenges to our assumptions? Or is it going to be both? I'm going to leave it for you to consider as we look at some things in this post-Christmas Sunday. And it's now that we're on the other side of Christmas that I want to invite you to consider, what assumptions did you carry through the Christmas time, through Advent and through Christmas? When I speak of assumptions, it's things like this. Did you see Mary riding a donkey on her journey to Bethlehem to give birth to Jesus? This is a common image, but this depiction is not in Scripture. We don't read that she rode a donkey to Bethlehem. Perhaps you found depictions of the innkeeper turning Joseph away as he forgot to call ahead for reservations. Nowhere in Scripture are we actually introduced to an innkeeper. In your head, did you picture the three magi of the nativity coming to Jesus to give him presents? It should go forward to the next one here. There we go. There's three of them. Scripture doesn't tell us how many there were. We don't know if there were more than three or less than three. What about the holy star that hovered over the stable, illuminating the baby Jesus? This is not an event that happened in Scripture. Along those lines, if you even assumed to picture a stable at all as the place where Jesus was born, no stable is mentioned in Scripture. All it says was that Jesus was laid in a manger. Archaeology has revealed that many mangers were actually in the houses, not in a stable. But then if, in your assumptions, you pictured that the manger was even something that held hay for animals, that may not be correct. The Greek word for manger was also the Greek word for an eating area, for a dining room. So maybe Jesus wasn't even laid in a manger full of hay. He may have been laid down on the table of a dining room. At the end of the day, we can picture Christmas as you want. I don't see in any of these things that there's necessarily a problem with the assumptions that we bring into Christmas as we've come to grow up with Christmas and to see the common imagery. But the point here is that a lot of us journeyed through Christmas with assumptions. These and many more assumptions, they are carried through the entire journey of our faith. When assumptions become a problem is when they box us in. Problem assumptions become the invisible walls within which our spirituality becomes constricted. Assumptions box our spirituality in. These silent assumptions, they even dictate how we're going to experience things. And they tell us what spirituality should look like. The assumptions even therefore tell us what people must look like in order to be spiritually worthy. Most recently, such assumptive boxes were revealed in major circles of the American evangelical world during the presidential election. From within their invisible box, many American evangelicals and their leaders assumed what box must be checked for you to call yourself a Christian. Jesus was born into a world and a time of invisible assumptions. He was born into a world with invisible walls of what spirituality should look like and what spiritual people will look like. But not all the walls of Jesus' day were invisible. The entire temple setup was made of visible walls of assumptions. The greatest assumption being that within the tightest, most inner walls, Jesus was most found. He was most protected there from the most unworthy, the lepers and the unspiritual. But Jesus brought the thing that breaks assumptions. Jesus brought the wrecking ball that smashes the walls of assumptions. He brought surprise. In the case of Jesus, the assumption of the religious was that God was found within the invisible and visible walls of what they had assumed. And for 400 years, they existed in a boring, oppressive, and depressive existence. Nathanael shows his assumptions. Philip comes to him after meeting Jesus, and Philip comes to Nathanael and says, Nathanael, we found the promised one. We found him. He's Jesus, son of Joseph of Nazareth. Nathanael scoffs. And he essentially says, no good comes out of Nazareth. He has an assumptive wall that wants to stand between him and Jesus. Historical events and social dynamics had shaped the view of Nazareth into a poor, hick town. The assumption, therefore, was that there was nothing good about this place, and therefore nothing good would come out of it. And this fed Nathanael's view of Jesus then, if he had his roots in Nazareth. Assumption infects our world. Assumption infects our world with boredom. It infects our world with predictability. It infects our world with depression. But the anti-venom to the infection of assumption is surprise. Surprise is the injection of enchantment into our veins and into our world. It breaks things out of what we've even unknowingly, unconsciously assumed that our world and the events are. Surprise exposes us first to a glimpse, a sliver of what might be, rather than what I've assumed to be. And then surprise invites us out of our invisible box into what is. In the face of Nathanael's assumptions, Philip says, come and see for yourself. Philip and Nathanael obviously had a close relationship, as Nathanael is the one that Philip says, I have to go tell him about the Jesus. Despite Nathanael's assumptions, he's apparently surprised enough by Philip's claims and his enthusiasm to at least get up and go see. He's surprised enough that there's a sliver that opens up. What if? I'll go see. I'll go check this out. And then he's surprised even more by Jesus. And his assumptions fall as he joins to follow Jesus. Something good that did come from Nazareth. In the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew seeks to surprise us. Matthew seeks to surprise his audience out of their assumptions. Religious assumptions that try to place God within invisible and visible boxes. He shows Jesus coming from outside of the assumptive walls. God is not found with us in the box that we assumed we had figured him out to be so we could contain him. God comes from the unassumed place, from the place outside, from a place among the assumed unworthy. Matthew presents Jesus as the surprise anti-venom. Surprise anti-venom against religious assumptions. Surprise breaks into what we presume is going to be. The kids haven't been gone long, but you'll hear them come back in here in a moment. The first Christmas was the surprising start to the fall of assumptions. The first Christmas worked to destroy the assumptions of who God is, who we are, who's the best, who's the worst. What do events mean? We assume if this event happens, this is what the cause is. In this first Sunday after Christmas, as we go into a new year, I want to invite us to let the enchantment of Christmas surprises defeat our assumptions. Against our assumptions, let the surprises come. And carry the surprises of this Christmas into 2025. We have a world that has lived on assumptions through the political campaigns of last year, through everything else. I've seen through COVID, if you're wearing a mask, I assume you're this way. If you're not wearing a mask, I assume you're this way. If you're a Christian, I assume you're voting this way. If you're this person, I assume this about you. Christmas surprises. Christmas surprises can defeat our assumptions. And we have the surprises that God continues to be birthed into this world. Christmas shows us that God continues to be birthed into this world through the unassumed family, in unassumed poverty, within unassumed settings, holding unassumed powerlessness, to be not at all what the people had assumed God to be. Christmas shows us the surprise life that comes from lifelessness. The Christmas surprise points us to encounters even today with modern shepherds who will take a moment, sometimes just seconds, from tending the duties of their lives to let us know that we're not alone. The Christmas surprise can carry into our times with modern magi who will bring us the rich recognition of God in our lives, even when we may feel overwhelmed and underprepared and still a little bit in the dark about the whole thing. The Christmas surprise is the surprise that even in our Nazareths, in our suffering, where we can fathom that no good could ever come out of there, the Christmas surprise says that there just might be people in our suffering, in our Nazareths, who will take hard journeys to bring God to us, into our world. We can be the extension of the Christmas surprise as we go into 2025 to each other and to those who will encounter in our lives through the year. We are a year-round Christmas surprise to others when we extend grace to people where they assume there is no grace, or where people may not even be able to have grace for themselves. We can be a year-round Christmas surprise to others when we are friends to those who assume they have no friends. We can be a Christmas surprise to people when we serve those who assume they're the least worthy of being served.